Hello everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today we're going to work on another fun block in Kimberbell's Pumpkins and Potions ladder quilt project. In today's video we're going to work on the 4-patch block. We're actually going to make 2 blocks because we have one 4-patch right here and then we have another 4-patch block right here. So it's the same block, no worries, we're just going to make 2 of them. So let's go ahead and grab our plastic pouch or bag system that you've labeled 4-patch and let's head over to the machine and let's get started stitching. Okay, we're at the machine. I have a bobbin with white thread down below and I have my 5x7 hoop with a piece of the poly no-show mesh stabilizer in it, and I put white thread at the top of my machine because we're going to be using that as a neutral thread throughout this whole block. Okay, so let's go to the screen cam and let's load the design. Okay, I have a Baby Lock Destiny, which is identical to the Embroidery machine. If you have something similar, you can follow along. I'm going to go to Embroidery, I'm going to go to my flash drive, I'm going to go to Pumpkins and Potions, and I am looking for the 4-patch block, which is this one right here. Okay, there we go. That's all I need. I'm going to click Set. And this is all we're going to be doing on this first part. I don't need batting or the main embroidery design or the quilting design or anything at this part. So all you have to do is click Embroidery. Okay, so we are ready to stitch this out. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put the foot down and stitch out this first stitch, which is the placement line for the fabric. Here we go. Okay, so now I need you to get your plastic pouch system that is labeled 4-patch. And I want you to pull out the fabric that we have in here. And you have 2 pieces of one fabric, 1 piece of another, and 1 piece of another. This is going to be a cool 4-patch. Okay, so this fabric where you have 2 pieces, we're going to call this fabric number 1. And then whichever order, doesn't matter, 1 will be fabric 2 and 1 will be fabric 3. Okay, so put them on your desk separate. Just make sure that you know that this is fabric number 1. Alright, so now that I've got the fabrics on the table in order, we're going to put the foot down and we're going to stitch out the first placement line. Alright, so now I'm going to take the hoop off the machine just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I have got fabric number 1. And I'm going to put it down facing up. Okay. Now I'm going to put fabric number 2 right side down. So the right sides are together. And I'm going to put that on the top. I'm going to line it up. It's pretty well lined up. But this piece of fabric's a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. So I center it. And then I'm going to center it on this line to this line so that there's a little bit of extra hanging over those 2 outer stitch lines, the one up here and the one here. But it's on that placement line. I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to look at where the needle's going to stitch. Do I have a good 1/4 inch seam on the left side of this? I do. So I am in a good place to tack this down. So here we go. Stitch this down. This is fairly easy. It's just a matter of getting the fabric in the right spot. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to take this off the hoop just so I can fiddle with it a little bit better, and I'm going to flip the top fabric up just like that, and then I'm going to finger press it. If you want to take this whole hoop over to your ironing board and give it a press, you can. I find that finger pressing actually works really well. So whichever you want, just press that down. Now it's going to stitch a tack down line all the way around. I just want to make sure that these fabrics stay flat using my stylus as it goes around. Here we go. Cool. All right, so this step is done. I want you to take the hoop off the machine, take the block out of the hoop, and reload your hoop with another piece of the poly no-show mesh stabilizer. Now we're going to do this block again. All right, I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so all the thread can be the same. Leave white in the bottom, white on top. Put the hoop on with your new piece of poly no-show mesh stabilizer, and all you have to do is where it says finish embroidering, click OK, and it immediately goes back to the beginning of this block. So we can do this block over again. It's perfect. So let's go back to the hoop cam, put the foot down, and let's stitch out that placement line. Here we go. Okay, so now let's put the foot down, and now we're going to stitch the placement line for the first piece of fabric. Okay, so I'm going to take the hoop off the machine so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to lay fabric number 1 down on that placement line and center the excess over the edges. And then I'm going to grab fabric number 3 and I'm going to flip that down, right sides together, also centered on this line so there's excess on both sides. I'm going to put my foot down. And I'm going to see, do I have a good 1/4 inch on this side, the left side of the needle? Yes, I do. So I can put my foot down and I can tack this down. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to take the hoop off the machine so I can work with this a little bit easier. And I'm going to flip this fabric face up, and then I'm going to finger press it. There we go. All right, that's good. Now it's going to do a tack down all the way around this whole block. So I'm going to use my stylus to help hold the fabric down as well as my hand, but just keep your fingers away from that moving needle. Here we go. Perfect. So now let's take this hoop over to the table, take the block out of the hoop, and I'm going to show you how to trim this block up as well as the other block we did just a few minutes ago. Okay, so now we're at the table, and now we need to trim these blocks up so that we can go to the next step. Okay, so we're just going to work on one at a time, and I'm going to measure from this stitch line to this stitch line, and that is 4.5. Okay, but you know what? If I measure from here to here, it's 5 inches. which is okay because what's going to happen is we're going to cut in the middle. So I just basically want to cut on the outer edge on that stitch line. Okay, and you can use your ruler to line it up with the stitch line down below. It's actually not going to be 4.5 inches square. In the book it says that, but it's really not going to be, because each strip is going to measure 2.5 by 4.5. Let's make sure that's correct. Gonna go to my book, and I'm gonna triple check, because you want to check before you cut. Yeah, 2.5 by 4.5. Okay, so one side measures 5 inches, the other side measures 4.5. So in this case, if I look at this, it's going to measure 5 inches, and it should. Okay, so 16, I'm going to go down to 11. I'm on my mat. I can definitely see the stitch line right underneath my ruler, and that made the 5-inch cut. Okay, so now this side, I'm going to be right on that stitch line, and I'm going to turn it around, and this one's going to be 4.5 inches. I am right on that mat, so I can actually see the stitch line just on the outside of this ruler. Okay, that works fine. If I put the block on the mat, this measures 5 inches. This block is going to measure 2.5 wide, because now we're going to cut it in the middle. So I want to make sure that that is 2.5. I can see the stitch line, and right up the middle I go. Okay, I'm going to put those aside. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I already made that first cut. So now I'm going to come over here, and this is going to be 5 inches, 16 down to 11. Got the line marking the bottom. Can I see that stitch line? Yes, I can. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, put my ruler right on that stitch line. Can I see that stitch line? Yes, I can. Turn this around. This one's going to measure the 4.5. It's my ruler, because this side is straight. And I'm a little off, so I'm going to make sure I'm lined up. 4.5. Can I see the stitch line? Yes, I can. Dun, 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 dun. And now you're going to put your block this direction, which measures 5 inches, which means the middle measures 2.5. Can I see the stitch line? Yes, I can. All right, so now you have 2 pieces in that fabric combo and 2 pieces in that fabric combo. Isn't that great? Okay, so now let's head over to the embroidery machine, and I'm going to show you how to do the next step. Okay, we're at the sewing machine now, and we've got 4 pieces of the blocks sewn together off the embroidery machine. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I want you to pick one of each set and put that aside. That leaves these, which is one of each set. Now we want to put these together, and Kimberbell shows like the black fabrics being diagonal from each other. So I've laid these out here. So I've got the black in the upper left here and the black in the lower right here. Now I'm going to take the right, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to put it right sides together, and this is going to be the sew line. Okay, so now I get some Clover clips, or you can use pins if you like. I tend to like Clover clips because they don't poke me and cause me to bleed all over my work, so I really like Clover pins. Okay, so this is the sew line, so I'm going to turn it so that is now facing up, and I want to center this seam. If you look at it, we've got one going one direction and one going this direction. See that? So I want to nest it so that the edge of each seam meets right in the middle. That's what they call nesting. And you can actually feel for it. If they weren't nesting and they were one on top of another, you would kind of feel a lump there. All right? So I want to literally put the edge of this seam over here right up against the edge of this seam. And when you feel it, it's perfectly smooth, okay? So that's the first one that I want to attach with a clip or a pin. And then I just make sure that the rest of it's going to line up, and I'm going to pin that as well. Okay, that's good. And then I will double check my seam. Yep, they're right up against each other and they are flat. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my sewing machine, and if you have one, I highly recommend a 1/4 inch foot. What this does is this has a guide on it that will actually allow you to put your fabric right up against it, and when you sew, it'll give you a nice 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so if you have one of those, I highly recommend you putting that on your machine. And just use a neutral color thread up on the top, like white or a light taupe, and white bobbin down below. And we're going to place the needle on the fabric. You don't want it above the fabric, you want it on the fabric. And I'm going to stitch a couple stitches, and I'm going to back tack. That just means going backwards a few stitches to lock those stitches in place, and then you can start sewing forward. Go forward until you get to your pin or your clip. Take that out and then continue on till you get toward the next one, and then continue on after you take that out. Then when you get to the end, you're going to stop and you're going to back tack as well, which just means go back a few stitches and cut your thread. All right, moment of truth. Dun, 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 dun. It is good. I will take it. That's great. Okay, so now that those are stitched together, I'm going to turn the block over, and I want you to go to your ironing board or ironing station, and I want you to press this seam open. Okay, so now that seam is pressed open. I'm going to put this aside, and now I want to copy the exact same thing and layout for the second block. So I'm going to do the same thing, making sure that my block is diagonal across from each other. Turn the right one over, put it right sides together so the top is facing down, and this is going to be my sew line. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to look for our seams. There's one here and one here, and I want to nest them right up against each other so I have a nice smooth feeling seam right there, because one of the seams is going that way and the other one's going the other direction, so they nest right up there. Make sure I get everything including the stabilizer lined up. Okay, double check my seams. Yep, they look and feel good. Alright, we're going to sew it just like we did the other one. Okay, needle on the fabric. Take a couple stitches and go backwards. Lock that in and sew forward to the next clip or pin. Take that out. Sew forward. You got this. Take that out, hold the end, and sew to the end. Okay, don't forget to go backwards to lock in that stitch. Cut your threads. And moment of truth. Oh, I'm off. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what to do, because I'm not going to leave that. I am off. I'm off on the end and I'm off in the middle. Okay, so let me get my seam ripper. Okay, yeah, because that is too far away. I'm not going to leave that. Okay, so now let me show you how to take this out. Okay, so you're going to go to the backhand side and you're going to look for the first few little stitches and you're going to use your seam ripper to loosen those and release those, okay? And then you're going to get kind of a little edge that you can actually pull a little bit. Then instead of me trying to fight the back side, I will put my fabric like this. So I'm looking at the front and I will actually go and grab those stitches from this front side because it's a lot easier and quicker than doing it from the back. Okay. And this is going to happen to you. I don't know how many times I have done this where I think everything is going good. I think I got it lined up and then I go to stitch and it's just not nesting on those seams right. So that's the part of quilting. It's you sew and sometimes you have to rip it back out. Okay. But I find that doing it this way is a little bit quicker and easier than trying to dig for them on the back side. And now I'm going to get to the end where I'm going to have a little bit of a tight issue because remember we back tacked to secure the stitches on both sides. So when I get to the end, it's going to be a little tighter and it's not just going to pull out. All right. So I have to really go under that stitch and pull them apart. Okay. Then you got to do a little bit of a cleanup job. You have to get all these threads off of this where you just pulled everything out. Sometimes you go from the back and you just clean that up. I have a couple ravels and get all those threads out that you just pulled out so you are not dealing with a mass of threads when you go to sew this back in. And stray threads go everywhere. All right, so now we're going to do this again. We're going to make sure we've got them in the right position. Diagonal. I'm going to flip it over. Right sides together. And I'm really going to look for that seam because I did something radically wrong this last time where I did not have my seams the way they needed to be. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to line that up. And my stabilizer is loose now, but that's okay. I'm mainly looking to line up the fabric. The fabric is the most important thing to line up. And now I'm going to take a little sneak peek. See, I'm still off. I'm still going to be off. So this purple needs to go back to the left a little bit. All right. Back to the left. So I'm going to reposition. And then reline everything else up. And then I'll take another sneak peek. Okay, let's take another sneak peek. And when you're taking your sneak peek, you got to make sure you literally pull it up. Nope, it's got to go to the left a little bit more. Okay. A little bit more to the left. Okay, sneak peek. I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now we're going to sew it back together again. Same technique. Take a couple stitches and go back. And let's do this again. You're going to experience this a lot in quilting, where the seam doesn't line up or you're not happy with the way it's stitched and you take it back out. So no worries. Okay, cut my thread and now let's see. Now that's better. It's off just a smidgen. I mean like not even 1/8 of an inch. So I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the ironing station, and I want to press this seam open. Okay, so I've got that seam pressed open as well, and now I have my 2 matching 4-patch blocks right here. So now let's go ahead and go back to the embroidery machine, and now I'm going to show you how to quilt these 2 blocks. Okay, we're at the machine, and I have my 5x7 inch hoop on here with a piece of the poly no-show mesh stabilizer. I have white thread in my bobbin down below, and I've loaded white thread in the top of my machine. So I'm going to put the hoop on the machine, and now let's go to the screen cam and let's load the design. Alright, I have a Baby Lock Destiny machine. In case you have something similar, you can follow along. It's also identical to the Brother Dream machine. Alright, so let's click Embroidery. I'm going to go to my flash drive. I'm going to go to Pumpkins and Potions, and I'm going to go to the quilting designs. I am looking for Halloween 10, and I'm looking for the 4x4 spider web. There it is. Okay, that's exactly what we want. We're going to click Set, and there's nothing else we need to do. This is the last thing that we're going to be doing for this 4-patch block, is just quilting the quilting designs. So I'm going to click Embroidery. There's nothing else that we need to do. So now let's go to the hoop cam. I just want to say a huge thank you to Kimberbell for sponsoring me in this project and for providing the Pumpkins and Potions Quilting Bundle for me to use in this project. This quilting bundle is amazing. It is definitely something that you can look at in order to enhance this project. It comes with all of these amazing designs. You get a cauldron, you get a spider web, some happy ghosts that look like they have little glasses on. This border is amazing. I cannot wait to show you the borders. And you get this cool pumpkin and ghost and 31 on there. It's just a bunch of fun. So if you're able to get this quilting bundle, it's going to just make your project pop. The borders, I cannot wait. Look at these borders. There's 2 of them, and I'm going to try to incorporate both of them in this project. You get enough files in each of the designs to be able to do any combination of size that you could possibly think of for this project and our other projects. And you also get the block tile sizes for the clear blue tiles quilting method as well in each of the designs. So I highly recommend, if you can do this, this is amazing. Please use the link in the description below to purchase the bundle from Kimberbell.com. Okay, with white thread up on top, I'm going to put the foot down and I'm going to stitch out the placement line for the fabric. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to pull a piece of batting out that I've pre-cut, that it measures 5 inches by 5 inches. Put that down, and now I'm going to lay the batting down so that it totally covers that stitch line on all sides. Okay, we're going to put this foot down, use our stylus to hold it down, and we're going to tack down this batting. Here we go. Perfect. Now I want you to take the hoop off the machine, and I want you to take this to a table, and I want you to trim away all of the excess batting around all 4 sides of that stitch line, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, that's trimmed up. Now I'm going to put the foot down, and it's going to stitch out the placement line for the fabric. Here we go. Okay, so now I've got the fabric out, but before I do anything, I want to put black thread in the top of my machine. I want my tack down and my quilting to be in the black thread. So you need to choose what color thread you want to do your quilting out of and put that color thread in the top of your machine. Okay, so once you've got your thread color of choice for the quilting up above, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my fabric down. Now this fabric is not going to tack down, all right? The way this block is built, it's pieced on a sewing machine before it's put on here. So it's already cut to its final size. So there is a very good chance that this is not going to tack down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the tack down stitch. All right, there's no reason to try to go around and tack it because it could very well catch on the fabric and cause more issues. So what I'm going to do is on the screen cam, I'm going to show you how to skip the step. I'm going to do plus and minus, and then on my machine, down means go forward a stitch. So it goes straight to the quilting, and that's where I want to be. So let's go back to the hoop cam. Okay, so all I want to do is I want to center this fabric. Take some of the threads there, and I just want to center this fabric inside that placement line. And what I'm going to do is when it starts quilting, I'm just going to hold the fabric down with my stylus to make sure that it doesn't move while it starts the quilting. All right, so let's put the foot down, and it's going to go ahead and start in the corner. Just hold it down with your stylus long enough so that it doesn't move. And then this design, it's basically just going to be the outer edge that it's going to stitch. And then you don't have to hold it anymore. I'm going to use my finger. Oops, see? It caught on there. So now I'll show you how to fix that. Go ahead and stop your thread, cut it. Okay. And it caught a couple of the edge strips there. Not a big deal. We're good. All right, so I'm going to use my jack, the seam ripper, and I'm just going to take out those few stitches that it caught on the purple. Here we go. And you see I'm going on the back side because I'm trying not to ravel the fabric anymore than it already is. No problem. We got this. Okay, I'm just going to go down a couple more stitches down to the purple. All right, we're good. Okay. That's really to be expected because we're tacking down a loose edge. Not a big deal. Okay, now let me show you what to do on the screen cam. I'm actually still on the plus and minus, but if you weren't, you go plus and minus, and I'm just going to go back just one stitch at a time till I get to where it started that purple block right there, or that purple section of the block, I should call it. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go back to the hoop cam. Now you can see I'm right at the start of that purple fabric. So this time I'm just going to make sure I keep my stylus holding it down on the back side. And let's go ahead and re-stitch this section. Here we go. We got it. Okay, let's stitch out the rest of the quilting. Nice. Very quick quilting. That's cool. And mind you, this is to be expected when you have a block that is pieced outside of the hoop and then is brought in and then quilted. You're always going to have an issue of the block size being just what you need it to be, but hard to tack down when it comes to the quilting. I think in the future maybe Kimberbell can figure out a way of still having the blocks to be the same size, but having extra fabric on the outside of these. There's only a few blocks that you'll encounter this with. Most of the blocks are done entirely in the hoop, and there's no issue. If you're doing a block that has a component where you're doing something outside of this hoop, and then you bring it back in on a hoop to finish the quilting, and that is where you might have this. But that's how you tackle this issue and get the quilting accomplished, all right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing all over again. So if you want to, you can rewind this video to the start of this block and do it again, or you can watch the fast forward montage that I'm about to do with the second block, and I'll just visually show you the steps to the point where we get the quilting done on the second block. All right, let's do it. Okay, I'm back at the machine, and I'm going to start the fast forward through on the second block. All right, so let's put the foot down, and here we go. Okay, so now take the hoop off the machine and let's head over to the table, and I'm going to show you how to finish up these two blocks. All right, you've got both of these blocks done. Isn't that cool? All right, so the last thing we have to do is we have to square this block up to 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. And I want to take a look at this outer stitch line and say, yes, that's 4.5, and that's just shy of 4.5. So really all we're going to do is square this block up and make it nice and neat on the outside. All right, so I'm going to trim off the excess stabilizer past the fabric block. Okay, that's my first step on that side. Now I can look at this side because I need to neaten this side up a little bit still. So am I 4.5? Okay, I'm a little bit past 4.5. So I can go ahead and turn this around, and I can neaten this up by making it straight across here and just neatening that up to the block. Okay. Just getting all that fuzzy edge stuff out of the way. All right, this block is going to be pretty much already measured out the way it is, but I want to make sure that it is a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square. Okay, now I've got this side neat. I can come over here, and it's going to be a little short. That's okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm over a little bit. There we go. 4.5 inch right there. I'm going to make that cut. Okay, it's pretty much all stabilizer. Okay, so if you're slightly short, that's okay. Okay, I'm going to just line this up and trim off the excess stabilizer, and then I'm going to come over here and see how we're doing on the 4.5 inch. We're a little short on this side too, and you wonder why that is? It's because when you do the quilting, it pulls the fabric in just a little bit. So what was a 4.5 inch square block before quilting comes out just about 1/8 of an inch smaller on all sides. But again, that's going to be okay because we're going to sew it with a 1/4 inch seam. This will happen when you're doing a project outside of the hoop and then you bring it back inside and then do the quilting on it when the fabric is exact. Okay, this is the few blocks in the Kimberbell projects where you'll have this issue, but again, we're okay because we can still sew that 1/4 inch seam allowance and be fine. Okay, let's do the next one. All right, same thing. I'm just going to neaten up that side and get the fuzzies off of it. Fuzzy wuzzies. Come over here. And I'm going to go to 4.5 inches. Again, I'm just like 1/8 of an inch short. That'll be okay. All right. And then I'm going to make this. Just straighten up and get the edges. Get the fuzzies off. And then make sure that it's 4.5 inches this direction. This one's pretty well right on. Okay, so we're good. All right, like I said, this is only going to happen on a couple blocks. And what they've done with the other blocks that are all made in the hoop is they allow plenty of extra fabric when you do the quilting. They always say cut your fabrics 1/2 inch larger if you're doing the quilt by quilt in the hoop method. But it works. We are 4.5 inches square. This little bit of edge here will be in the seam allowance, and everything's going to look great when we're done. So you did it. You got the 2 4-patch blocks done. I call it 4-patch because there's 4-patch. So I hope you had as much fun making these blocks as I did, and I hope you stay tuned here on Jelly Molly TV for more fun and more blocks in Kimberbell's Pumpkins and Potions ladder quilt project. And until I see you next time, happy stitching. Bye-bye.